Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the place that tries to cut through the noise and really synthesize these complex stories that you need to know about.
And today, we're taking a look behind the curtain, you could say. A pretty dramatic journey into Daystar television.
Yeah, one of the biggest, most recognizable religious broadcasters out there. We're looking at a profound leadership crisis.
It's really a story about faith, about money, and family dynamics, specifically the fallout after the death of the founder, Marcus Lamb.
Before we go deeper into the story today, we would appreciate if you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on further stories. Also like and comment your thought.
And it centers on his wife, Joni Lamb, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Her very rapid remarriage.
Exactly. Our sources really zero in on the controversy around that. What started as, a personal decision, getting engaged and married to Doug Weiss, just months after Marcus passed away, it just exploded.
Right, into this public fracturing event.
A huge one.
And that's the real tension here, isn't it? How does something that seems private, a personal choice, end up potentially wrecking decades of work?
Well, that's what we're digging into.
So our mission today is to unpack the specific arguments, the ripple effects that our source material details. We're talking about a critical letter from a pastor, the family situation, and this big spiritual debate over accountability.
Yeah, it shows how shifting loyalties, questions of trust can really put everything on the line, the whole future of Daystar.
Okay, let's unpack this. So the thing that kicked this whole crisis off, it wasn't some big public showdown. It was actually pretty personal.
Yeah.
Quiet, almost.
Right. We learned Joni Lamb got this envelope, but what was inside? Not comfort.
No. It was a letter, but it carried serious weight, didn't it?
Huh.
Because of who sent it.
Absolutely key. This wasn't some random critic or anonymous email. This is from a longtime pastor friend, trusted, and importantly, someone who'd also lost a spouse. They understood grief.
That context is huge. So this wasn't an attack. It was coming from a place of compassion.
That's how the sources frame it, yeah. A compassionate voice choosing what's described as honesty that cut deep. So when Joni read it, the questions weren't about judgment, really. They were about the consequences.
Okay, what were the specific concerns raised?
The letter apparently asked directly, why move so fast? Why make it so public? Had she really stopped to think about the catastrophic impact her quick engagement and marriage to Doug Weiss might have on her audience? People who were also grieving?
So it wasn't just the marriage itself, but maybe the timing and the optics. It created a kind of contradiction.
Precisely. Because for years, Joni Lamb was the one guiding people through suffering, talking about the long road of healing, faith through loss.
And suddenly her actions didn't seem to match that message.
Exactly. For someone like her, where the line between private life and public ministry is basically gone, the sources say private choices become lessons. They're examples. Sermons without words,
So if the sermon was patience and suffering, this rapid remarriage felt like something else entirely.
Immediacy, maybe even quick replacement. That's the
Yeah.
implication.
And the letter pointed to specific groups feeling this disconnect most strongly.
Yes, it did. The concern was immediate for people who saw her as this pillar of strength in grief. So families who just buried someone, widows especially, who were still deep in mourning.
Wow.
And younger believers too, people looking to her for how faith works when life gets incredibly hard.
She'd spent decades building that trust, that credibility.
And suddenly it felt like that credibility was being spent, maybe carelessly, because her actions seemed to contradict the very message she'd built her platform on: perseverance.
That must have sent shockwaves through the ministry itself. And that leads us to the family situation, because it seems to have fractured things right at the heart of Daystar.
Yeah, here's where it gets really interesting internally. Let's talk about Jonathan Lamb.
The son, everyone assumed he was a successor.
That was the natural assumption, yes. He grew up in the ministry, learned the ropes from his father, spent years being groomed, basically, to understand Daystar inside and out, operationally, spiritually.
The expectation was clear. He steps up, carries on the legacy.
But that's not what happened. Joni's remarriage to Doug Weiss, who, our sources say was respected in his own field, counseling it just instantly changed the power dynamic.
And Doug Weiss was totally new to Daystar's inner workings.
Completely new, yet he seemed to move into key leadership roles very quickly.
So what was the evidence Jonathan was being sidelined? Was it obvious?
It wasn't like he was fired outright. It was more subtle, which can be even harder. Staff noticed things. Jonathan was reportedly less visible, not in the big strategic talks anymore,
Yeah.
absent from important operational meetings where he used to have a voice. And crucially, his on-air time, which is like the ultimate status symbol in a media ministry, was cut back significantly.
So people inside felt it.
Yeah, the feeling described was like a stranger had been given keys to the house while the son was left standing outside. That's a powerful image.
Wow. And wait, the sources say Jonathan was actually being pressured to publicly support decisions he wasn't okay with?
That's what the pastor's letter suggested, yes. Imagine that pressure. You're grieving your dad and you're being pushed to smile through it all, basically.
While watching your family's life work take this sharp turn under someone new.
Exactly. And according to the sources, that pressure was the breaking point. Jonathan's discomfort, his reluctance to just fully jump on board, it spoke volumes inside Daystar.
He was caught, wasn't he? Between loyalty to his mom and the ministry and loyalty to his dad's vision, maybe his own conscience.
A classic double bind. And the sources make it clear. That family strain became obvious. It confirmed the division for anyone paying attention.
This really highlights that classic struggle in family-run organizations, doesn't it? When personal stuff, grief, new relationships, loyalty shifts, crashes into the professional structure.
It collapses that delicate balance. The sources argue leadership, especially in ministry, should be about service, stewardship. But here, it quickly looked like it became about control, and maybe succession planning that just bypassed the expected heir.
Okay, so that's the family and succession piece. Now let's pivot to the spiritual defense Joni used. This really escalated things, right?
Absolutely. This took it from a family dispute to a full-blown theological debate. She claimed the decision, the speed of it all, was confirmed by God through prophecy, mentioned specific prophetic words, even dreams.
And that's a huge claim in charismatic circles.
Huge, because when a leader says, God told me, the stakes go way up. But prophecy, in those traditions, isn't just supposed to be a private thing you run with. Scripture says it needs to be tested.
Okay, how? How is prophecy supposed to be tested? What does that look like?
Well, there are generally three main checks people look for. First, does it actually line up with the Bible, with God's written word? That's fundamental.
Okay.
Second, is it weighed? Is it confirmed by trusted, unbiased spiritual counsel? People who aren't just going to agree with you.
Right, objective voices.
Exactly. And third, does it resonate with, the internal peace and guidance of the Holy Spirit? But critics argued Joni seemed to bypass that second check, the unbiased counsel part.
They felt she was using prophecy to justify something that, to outsiders, looked really rushed, maybe driven by emotion.
That was the concern, that maybe loneliness, desire was being mistaken for God's leading.
And that matters immensely because of her platform.
Right.
Millions of people watch Daystar.
Exactly. When a leader on that kind of stage says, God told me to do this, people listen. They take it seriously. They might even model their own lives after it.
So if that claim was really just masking personal feelings,
then she was potentially setting a really damaging example for a massive, devoted audience. It raises a critical question.
which is,
Was prophecy being used kind of like a shield for personal choices, insulating her from needed critique?
did the pastor's letter address that specific point?
It did, directly. It urged Joni to really test the words she felt she was receiving, and critically to examine the kind of counsel she was accepting.
So not just that she got counsel, but who she was listening to.
Precisely. Was she surrounding herself with people who would naturally agree? The sources mention Jimmy Evans, for instance, who publicly supported the marriage. Or was she seeking out voices that might challenge her, question the timing, the direction?
So the real issue wasn't just claiming prophecy, but maybe a lack of that rigorous, independent checking process that such a big claim requires.
That's the core of the accountability concern, yes. True spiritual accountability should challenge a leader, not just rubber stamp their feelings or desires.
And when a powerful figure uses God told me to sidestep tough questions about timing, succession, impact.
It chips away at the foundation, right? Spiritual transparency is supposed to be the bedrock for these ministries. It undermines credibility.
So amidst all this, the letter, the family tension, the prophecy debate, what were people hoping for? Not just critics, but maybe even supporters who were uncomfortable.
The sources suggest the hope wasn't for public humiliation or anything like that. It was for, reflection, a pause, a demonstration of humility.
Humility. What would that have actually looked like in this situation? It's easy to say, harder to do.
True. In this high-stakes context, it would have meant more than just saying sorry. It needed concrete actions.
Like what?
Like maybe a public acknowledgement that, okay, things moved really fast, recognizing the hurt it caused the audience, and crucially, acknowledging Jonathan's grief, his position, his legitimate role in the ministry's future.
It sounds like that fundamental tension again. Control versus service.
Definitely. In family-run organizations, especially ones with this level of personal investment, those lines get so blurry, and control often wins out over servant leadership.
And that's the danger for Daystar moving forward, isn't it?
It is. The sources really emphasize this point. Ministries, honestly, any big organization, they don't usually fail because of the initial mistake. People make mistakes, especially under grief.
Right.
They fail because of the refusal to admit the mistake. That's stubbornness. When pride takes over, the leader bigs in, defends the choice no matter what.
And that defense can end up costing the whole institution its reputation.
Potentially, yes. If the story stays focused on defending choices, tightening control, Daystar risks losing the very credibility Marcus Lamb spent decades building. The cost of that pride could be enormous.
So the sources kind of lay out a choice for Joni Lamb here.
A very stark choice, yeah. She can either double down, keep defending, which might just reinforce the fractured image, or she can take what the sources call the harder road, the road of humility.
And what does that harder road involve?
It means consciously choosing legacy over protecting her pride, choosing healing for the family over holding on to power, choosing to repair the ministry's image, even if it's personally difficult.
If she does that, could the narrative change?
That's the potential, yeah. It could pivot, move away from scandal, and become a story about, well, redemption. Powerful redemption, even.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what does this deep dive really tell us, the audience?
Well, I think it shows that these core issues, the critical letter, sidelining the son, the debate over prophecy and accountability, they aren't just, gossip or personal drama.
They're bigger than that.
Much bigger. They're almost textbook examples of how integrity, trust, leadership, succession play out in any powerful organization. Doesn't matter if it's religious or corporate.
And the health of any organization, especially one built on public trust like Daystar, it really hinges on whether the leaders are seen living out what they preach, right?
Absolutely. If there's a gap between the public message and the private actions or the internal decisions, that foundation starts to crack. It's almost inevitable.
The sources remind us, though, that the Daystar story isn't over. These decisions are still shaping the future.
That's right. It's still being written.
So it leaves us wondering, doesn't it? What actions, what outcome would truly honor the ministry's original vision now in this crisis?
And maybe how often is humility, which can feel like weakness in the moment, actually the strongest, most necessary move a leader can possibly make?
It's that ultimate leadership test, maybe. Choosing vulnerability when everything screams, control the narrative.
Precisely.
Indeed. Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.